Today is a special day. Today, we finish a mountain. And no, your ears aren't clogged. That's what I said. We are making our mountain. So let's have a quick recap. 2 episodes ago, I revealed to you my plan for a new base. And I told you that this one is going to be a super base for Super B.L.Y. A new Super B.L.Y. base. We took a walk to the outer edges of Dakara where I used my genius surveying skills to scout a location where our new base would go. And we continued the journey to the creative world where I test and model ideas for Dakara. And there we witnessed the evolution of the B that is going to be the B Tower. And then we saw the working prototype for the B Tower itself so that together we can imagine and plan and ponder the way the B Tower is going to sit in Dakara. But that wasn't all that we saw in the creative world. Remember the sailboat? Remember the UFO? And the third mystery object? You have to remember them. Take a guess how they are going to fit into the new base. Back in Dakara, I used my genius surveying skills once again. Now, having known what the tower is going to look like, we took another look at the site that we chose. This time, in order to decide what parts of the landscape could be kept and what parts needed to change. And I decided that the most important feature of this new landscape would be a dramatic, grand, terrifying cliffside. Before we left off that episode, I busted out the wool blocks and made an outline to give us an impression of where the cliffside would go. And then it was the next episode. We began the grind, gathering materials for the cliff. And we also began the terraforming project, filling in where the mountain is going to be, leaving the cliffside for last. And so as we went along, placing layers of dirt, we made some interesting discoveries, such as finding a great spot where we could have a lovely water feature in the side of our mountain. And I'm going to be showing it to you here in just a moment. It's finished. That's how we finished off episode 2, and that brings us up to speed. It's now day 3 of building the SBLYB, Super B.L.Y. base. I'm having a great day, but what I really want to know is how all of you are doing. I hope you're mighty well. And even better now that we get to have another episode together of B.L.Y. But a lake? Yes, I said I built a lake, and I said I would show it to you. What a beauty! This landscape we've created so far, isn't it just amazing what can be done with just grass blocks and water? Oh, that's nice. But buckle up, boys and girls, because we're about to go over the edge. Over the edge, get it? It's a cliff joke. There you are. I'm coming for you. It's time to build the cliff, so that means it's time to reveal what is inside these shulker boxes. Before you, there are 3 boxes, and each box represents one of the 3 categories of materials that we're going to be using to make our cliff. Now, let me back up a moment. In real life, we've all seen cliffs, the cliffs of the Grand Canyon, the cliffs of Dover, and all of those cliffs, well, they're really just made out of rocks and dirt. Really, that's all it is. You don't really see a lot of trees on cliffs. You don't really see a lot of plants. You can see waterfalls. But as far as what the earth is, it comes down to just being rocks and dirt. So let's talk about the rocky bits. Well, the rocks are oftentimes big old boulders, little pebbles, and everything in between. And the rocks are often piled up at the bottom of the cliff, or they stick out from the side of the cliff where wind and water has eroded the soil around the rock, exposing its jagged edges. So that's the boulders. And let's talk a little bit about the dirt. Well, the dirt, it's more than just dirt, because cliffs, since they stick up from the surface of the earth, they expose different kinds of dirt that have been piled up in layers over all the many, many years. So the dirt at the bottom of the cliff and the dirt at the top of the cliff and all the layers of dirt in between, they're different kinds of dirt, and you can tell, like if you look up a picture right now of the Grand Canyon, you'll see all these different layers and different stripes in the side of the cliff. Those are the different layers of dirt. How can you tell one layer from the next? They're different colors, different textures, different saturations, amount of water and mud in the dirt. So one layer might be more dry or more wet than the other layers around it. There are lots of ways you can see, and the difference is evident just by looking at the cliff. So we've got to remember that when we build our cliff. Now, Bub, you said all cliffs are rocks and dirt, and you've got 3 shulker boxes here. So what's that third shulker box if one of these is rocks and the other is dirt? Whew, okay, I just whacked my mic and it went flying across the desk, and I'm lucky that it didn't completely break. Where was I? Oh, yes. So we have 2 categories, rocks and dirt, but we have 3 shulkers. So what's that third shulker box? Well, since the dirt category of a cliff is so complicated, I've broken out that category into 2 different subcategories. This is getting a little complicated. We'll just say the dirt underneath and the dirt above. And for the dirt above, well, really what we're saying is topsoil. Now, we were looking at the Grand Canyon. Go back to the internet and look up Cliffs of Dover. The Cliffs of Dover, yes. A better example for what I'm talking about here, because when you look at that, the dirt underneath and the dirt on top are completely different, green and white. The topsoil layer where the grass is able to grow, it goes right up to the edge of the cliff, and then it stops. It doesn't go down. Grass can't grow in the dirt underneath, just on top. Sometimes cliffs have grass on top, and that topsoil spreads all the way to the edge of the cliff and then stops abruptly. Halt, and doesn't go down the side of the cliff. And we're going to have that, obviously, because look at our mountain. It's got dirt on top. So we got to think about topsoil, dirt underneath, and rocks. Okay, so you've been over your 3 categories, big deal. It's time to show me the blocks. Okay, I'll get straight to the controversial choice. Netherrack. That's right, we're using netherrack. So for the dirt underneath, for the part of the ground underground that's being exposed on the face of the cliff, I decided to build a palette around our friend netherrack. That's because inspiration for me personally for this cliff is a ditch that I used to play in as a kid. I played in a ditch when I was a kid, and it was a red dirt ditch. And if you've never heard of red dirt, sometimes called red clay, it's real. There is dirt that is very, very red, and I think netherrack comes pretty close, at least close to the dark red bits. So it's not the only red block we have in the game to give us the red dirt look. Right about now, you can probably see why we had to farm all of that mangrove wood. Yes, we're using mangrove wood. And more rain. Okay, rain's over. Yes, mangrove logs, but not this variety. We're gonna strip it. Ooh, so exposed. The stripped mangrove log goes really well with the netherrack, and it gives a variety of texture, a slight variety in color. It's a smoother looking block. It's got these horizontal pixel patterns, whereas the netherrack has these bulbous, clumpy, blobby bits of pixel patterns to make it look like there's, rocky surface. We can see it's similar to the smooth basalt here. But the mangrove log, the stripped mangrove log is great alternative to netherrack because it looks like the same kind of dirt, just more exposed to the elements. It looks like a patch of the netherracky ready dirt that's been washed over, more eroded and smoothed over by all the elements of nature. We also have nether gold ore and nether quartz ore, which will spread out from each other and use in patches here and there. Then, to match the red warm color of the netherrack and the mangrove log, we're also going to be pulling in some of these terracotta blocks. the brown, the orange, and the red. Upon inspection, I noticed that the terracotta texture has the same horizontal pixel patterns, similar horizontal pixel patterns to the stripped mangrove log. We'll use the terracotta bits to represent some of those smooth-overed, well-eroded areas. We've got to use this pointed dripstone stuff because it just exudes cliffiness. How can you build a cliff without using this stuff? And the mangrove pressure plate, and even some candle. Now, as the cliff reaches up into the sky, there will be different layers, and the bottom layer is going to be darker, deeper reds, and the higher layers need to be something a little different to contrast. So, to contrast the netherrack, I've chosen calcite, polished diorite, and diorite wall. And what works well about these is they are all white, so it looks like all the color has been washed out. And also, they've got these roundish pixel patterns that suggest rockiness. And that same rockiness that the netherrack has, we want this other layer of dirt to have as well. So we chose these blocks to alternate with the netherrack. And then for some blocks to look smoothed over, like the well-eroded bits, to alternate with the mangrove log, stripped mangrove log rather, and the reddish terracottas. We've got some lighter terracottas, still warm in color, pink, regular terracotta, light gray, white terracotta. So as the cliff extends, the rocky bits of netherrack and the smooth bits of mangrove log and deep reddish terracottas will transition into rocky calcite and diorite and smoothed over lighter versions of reddish terracottas. Now we're also going to put in some sand because I think it brings something that the overall palette is missing. And then also there's these other white blocks that I was looking at. The bone block, the smooth quartz, and the smooth quartz slab. The bone block, it kind of gives me the same impression of the terracotta. It's got the same lines, but they're vertical. I guess you could rotate it on its side, but it's not quite the same. So I'm not going to use it the same way as that family of blocks. I'm actually going to use these bone blocks and the quartz to make the most polished looking white boulders that our cliff is going to have, where the boulders are the shiniest because they've had the most erosion happening to them. And pointed dripstone will be as much a part of this lighter version of the dirt palette as it was of the darker version. And we're going to use it like this, the hanging part, and like this, where it's sitting on the ground. Big parts, little parts, and stone. Yes, we're going to be using some stone. It's good to have some of that neutral kind of color, colder colors. So that covers the dirt underneath. Let's talk about the topsoil. And here is one palette for topsoil, and I think it's the one that we're gonna use in our cliff. It's got everybody's favorite dirt blocks, grass blocks, and we're gonna be using those blocks rather conventionally, and we'll definitely make sure to have some areas where those blocks hang over the edge of the cliff just to give that impression that the topsoil wants to keep growing, but it runs up against the edge of the cliff and it's got nowhere to go. But then Minecraft gives us more dirt options to play with. There's rooted dirt, and there's coarse dirt, of course. To me, the coarse, the rooted, and the normal dirt, yeah, they look, the coarse looks more coarse and the root looks like it's got roots, but the shiny bits of the rooted dirt and the darker bits of the coarse also suggest to me maybe there's more mud and more water in those dirts. Like perhaps the normal dirt is dry compared to those two? I don't know, that could be something to keep in mind. And while we're on the topic of dryness, we're also gonna be using some of this packed mud brick, and mud brick slab, which when held up against the other dirt blocks in our palette, the packed mud really looks dry. I mean, it's flaking to pieces here. That's really gonna sell the story that parts of the cliff are dry. So I think where the dirt reaches the edge of the cliff, that's where its roots won't be pulling as much water. The topsoil won't be as wet because it's not as close to the groundwater underneath, being stuck out over the edge of the cliff. And of course, the topsoil is the only part of the cliff where plants are able to put down roots and grow. So we're gonna have some dangly bits, the hanging roots and the glowberries, and even some of these mangrove roots to give the impression that life is happening on our cliff. It's just coming to a halt right where the edge of the cliff is. Oh no! My glowberries! Oh, you can't. I did a dumb thing. Okay, I've got to go get more. I'll be right back. Oh, this segment is starting to drive me a little bit crazy. This palette reporting stuff is involved. My brain hurts. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, for your consideration, rocks. Yes, here is the final category, rocks and boulders. These are like the characters of the cliff, the personalities. And we've got 2 palettes, just like we had 2 palettes for the dirt underneath part of the cliff. We've got 2 palettes of rocks, shinier rocks and dingier rocks. For the shiny rocks, we're going to be using cobble with the cobble stairs and cobble slabs. And for an alternate block to set off the cobble, I'm going to use tuff, some candles, and some lichen. Now, for the dingier boulders, which might be maybe the boulders at the bottom of the cliff, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, we're gonna have dingier boulders in addition to the bright cobble boulders. So we're gonna use cobble deep slate. I think it's the obvious choice with the cobble deep slate stairs and slabs. But then we can also use the regular non-cobble deep slate just for variety, and then as a block to set off the cobble deep slate, just like we had the tuff setting off the cobble, here we're going to use smooth basalt in the place of tuff. They're very similar to each other, and just like our netherrack, these blocks have those pixel patterns that are kind of bulbous and rocky looking, not very smooth, even though this is called smooth basalt. It's got that rocky look going on with it. And of course the candle. Ooh, I don't know if you can tell or not from the sound of my voice, but I am getting anxious and excited about building this cliff. I'm dying to start. We've talked about all the blocks, so let's get right down to it. Let's go. And it's done. What? Take a look at that. Everything came together rather nicely. In my research of cliffs, I came across a term. Gully ditch. Yes, gully ditch. Wait, I think I'm forgetting it. Well, anyways, a gully ditch is like, I told you guys when I was a kid, I played in a ditch next to my house. A red dirt ditch, and it had these gullies. That's like where the wall of the ditch, which is here, the wall of our cliff, it has parts that stick out and parts that are caved in. And that's where wind and mostly water has washed out these big, deep gullies. It's such a fun word to say, gully, gully, gully. So there's a gully here and a gully there. And when you look at cliffs, that's the way they act in the landscape. They look like ribbons kind of winding in and out, making different caves and humps with their shape, their outline. So the rocky bits like the netherrack and the boulders, they sit where wind and rain haven't worn things down. And then the smooth blocks, the mangrove, all that mangrove we chop, and all the terracotta that we use, those sit in the cave bits where wind and rain have worn things down. And the surface of the dirt would be smoother from all that wear and tear. Now that this landscaping project is complete and we don't have a giant hole in the crow. Excuse me. Now that the landscaping is complete, there's something I'm dying to do. Oh. Yes. This is it. We're gonna look at the map. I haven't done this on the series yet, episode 5, and we're looking at the map of Dakara for the first time. Ta-da. But it's missing some things. It's missing the squid ink factory. It's missing some of the little builds we've done in the marina district. And of course, it's missing all that landscape on the north end of town where the B tower is gonna go. Look at the progress we've made. This is blowing my mind right now. I haven't done this in a long time. Updated my map. I haven't updated my map in a long time. It's such a fun part of the game. I can just stare at this map forever, thinking about the streets that I'm going to pave and the buildings that I'm going to build. Working on the top-down view. When you're building a city or even a mega base or just doing some terraforming, perhaps making a village look nicer. When you're doing that, it pays to get a map of it and to work out the top-down view of your area that you're working on. It's just as fulfilling as the rest of the views you're gonna get in the game. But I'm simply having too much fun to quit. Well, I could go for some tea. I'm gonna make some tea and come back. Ooh, feel that crisp mountain air. Isn't it lovely? From a distance here, you can really tell from the scale of the cliff that there's gonna be something important up there. Oh, and look at it. It is done, everybody. We made the mountain. It's complete. Now all we have to do is build the tower on top and build the pathway leading up to the tower. And it's gonna be glorious. We're gonna have a new mega base. The city of Dakara is going to look better than it ever has. But you know something that's kind of bothering me? This mountain and this cliff that we've just spent 3 episodes finishing and put so much love and work into, I don't even know what to call it. I'm sitting here talking about it and I'm struggling to refer to it because it doesn't have a name. I need a name for my mountain. I want to hear from you guys. What is a good name for a mountain, for this mountain? If you have any ideas for one, leave it in the comments below. I hope the progress we made today has inspired you, either to go do something in your own Minecraft world, to pick up and play the game again, or whatever it is. I hope it's inspired you. I really do. The B Tower is coming soon. I can literally feel it. It's gonna be probably 2 more episodes away and we will finally get to see it. I know you would like to have it sooner, but that's my estimation at this point, given all the work that still needs to be done. I mean, we don't even have a way of getting from the city out here to the new base. We need to put in a road, and I think that's where we're gonna pick up on next episode. Building a pathway to the mega base. I don't know, I'll think about it, but I think that's what we're gonna do. Leave a like on the video if you really enjoyed it. I appreciate you remembering to do that. To those who have already subscribed, thank you so much. And to all of the rest of you, join us. Late Game Survival Minecraft in the B.L.Y series. Creative Minecraft building and design in the building exhibit. Teeny tiny Minecraft tutorials. This channel is still very new, but it keeps growing and growing, and I am having so much joy making these videos for all of you, and I hope it's entertaining you and inspiring you. I will see you in the next one.